We're back here on the Vainglory International Premier League on OGN, and it's our third and final match of the night here in Group C. It will be Hunters returning from China. As we see, hi camera, we love you. It will be Hunters. He's back. He's always back. It will be Hunters from China. They did take fourth place behind Gangstars, losing that third place match in the Worldwide Invitational, and a brand new team in Wild coming through the qualifiers. And while we know a little bit about what Hunters has on hand, I'm really excited about Wild because this is a team that has a new player, one they didn't use for the qualifiers, named Senti. And it's particularly interesting for me because I started about 10 years ago as a Warcraft 3 caster, and this guy is actually a famous Warcraft 3 pro named Rainbow, a human player for MTW. So he's back in a different game, on the professional stage once again, like 10 years after the fact. So I'm really excited.
Even though this guy's only been playing Vainglory for 4 months, I'm sure he's going to be one of those big players. Like, he didn't play in the qualifiers. We saw from some of the other teams, they picked up new players after the qualifiers, after their team got big, and they realized, like, oh, we should, get the best players in here, find maybe someone to replace our weakest player, someone like that. So they pick up an ex-Warcraft 3 pro who did quite well, actually. So that is a fantastic pickup. They seem to me like kind of that dark horse team for sure out of the qualifier teams.
Well, let's take a look at Hunters. Of course, that fourth place finisher in the Worldwide Invitational. Queen, the only female player in this league, the roamer, known for her fortress play. And there is Mong. He's a substitute. Looks like he's giving the cutthroat gesture, maybe to say that he's been cut for Senti, who is awkwardly standing in the middle, pointing at the sky and looking rather concerned. Perhaps it is falling.
Oh, man. And then the other two guys in the end just doing that very standard arms cross, looking kind of mean for no reason. You gotta like it. Looking at some of the heroes that these guys like to play, we do see Night Ray actually did play Scarf, so maybe we will get another look at Scarf. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be fun to see that hero once again. And surprisingly, we haven't seen any Ringo today, but we are going to start with Hunters on this side of the arena. Queen at the end, and known for her Arden and Fortress play. And at the World Invitational, she played, out of her 5 games, 4 out of 5 on Fortress. So certainly known for that hero. Our only Chinese team in this tournament.
I don't even know how she got Fortress that many times, actually, with the amount of times it was banned.
Yeah.
Fortress, unfortunately, has been nerfed just a bit coming into this next patch. So we'll see if she still plays it today.
Indeed, but Hunters certainly the favorites against the upstart West, and Wands, their jungle player, liking to pick a little bit of Box, a little bit of Koshka here and there. It was a close match against finalists Divine Brothers. They did lose 1-2 before being knocked out in that third place decider. Godfather in the lane. Interestingly, Godfather likes to play Glaive in lane, which is a bit unusual.
Glaive and Adagio. Both of those he was using a bunch. And this team could have been in the finals. They were so close, as you mentioned, just going down to the Divine Brothers. They could have been up there, so definitely one of the best teams we got this time around.
And on the other side, we will have Wild, the team that made it through the qualifiers and their debut. And here at the end, we will have Senti, the Warcraft 3 player, formerly known as MTW Rainbow, and actually a player that reached the top 3 in the MBC Game League, which is another televised league here in Korea at the time. So he now works in helping startup companies, interestingly. And of course, Wild West, naming himself after an awesome period in time or a really terrible movie. You take your pick.
Yeah. I like the team logo, by the way. I want to mention that. Do you get the nice stars getting on there? Also reminds me of a hockey team from America.
And West also is a farmer that grows organic fruits and vegetables and sells them through Twitter. That is his day job. He is a Twitter organic farmer, truly a man of the modern world.
I don't know, man. He's a farmer, but he plays Vainglory on his tablet. So,
well, he sells it through Twitter, man. He's taking it to the next level.
It's pretty awesome.
I think it's great. And
Wild fan already here.
Wild fighting.
This is Night Ray down there. A bit of a heart. Night Ray's already got a big fan.
There he is. There's Senti no stranger to televised esports in Korea. Let's see if he can grow his career in a brand new game. Exciting times. We are going to be heading into our draft phase pretty soon. And let's get into the draft of our last game, rounding out the night with Group C.
Yeah. Very interested to see more than anything else, what is Queen going to play? Will she play that nerfed Fortress? Will she play, the buffed Catherine, taking away that bug? Well, actually, Catherine is banned, so forget about that. That's not an option. We'll be playing Arden.
Interestingly, Hunter's taking out that Glaive. Now, again, Glaive has been banned so many times so far in this league, although we haven't seen that many games. And you were right, Night Ray on that Scarf coming on through. And that is a surprise. A Saw for Godfather. Now, we know Hunters likes to do unorthodox stuff. Let's get into game one. Welcome to game one here in Group C. Hunters versus Wild. Some really interesting picks coming down so far. Hunters picking not only that Jungle Celeste, but also laning Saw.
Very, very interesting. This is going to be the first time we're going to see Saw.
We also have a Jungle Ringo, so
Yeah.
all bets are off in this game, Valdez.
It's kind of interesting. Koshka not banned out here, but West, he was saying he's a very big Koshka player. He wanted to show the strength of Koshka, but maybe after that slight nerf, he's like, well, forget that. I don't want to do that anymore. I'll be playing Ringo. But it seems like this team definitely favoring Ringo and Scarf. So they're going to have a lot of poke potential and just a lot of damage in general.
Yeah, trying to land that core collapse, not going to hit, so no gank there. And Godfather doing a little bit of animation canceling on this Saw right there in the mid lane. Make sure he gets those last hits in. He does take the Book of Eulogies first, and what that does is it gives you a bit of health as you get your last hits in. As we see some harassment here by Hunters onto Wild in the jungle. Senti trying to kite it out with the twirling silver.
I'm telling you, man, this Celeste jungle is fantastic. I've been loving her so far. I'm glad these pro players are picking her up. And doing a nice job with the counter jungling so far.
Of course, Godfather did get caught in the scout trap right there, took a nice chunk. Of course, Saw just getting slower and slower and slower over time as his attack speed gets faster. So basically every auto attack, since the first Saw we've seen, will increase his attack speed, but it will also decrease his movement speed until he gets rid of those stacks.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, especially against a Scarf. If you're standing still, you're going to be taking a lot of damage from someone like Scarf. And of course, he'll be giving a lot back, but I think he's going to definitely have to itemize a bit more defensively against this composition.
Well, and that's something you can do, too, because one of the interesting things about Saw is even though he's a ranged weapon power carrier, well, Juan's just getting in there with that attack or the move speed buff from Arden, and now actually Juan's will fall to the counterplay. They pick up 1-for-1, and they're still going to go at it. Godfather getting some nice damage as West backs off. But that Vanguard getting the speed boost can be quite useful.
Oh, yeah. I'm loving the heavy ganking style that Hunters has been playing so far. If you can land the core collapse with the Saw, you just do incredible amounts of damage to any one player. So look at that. He's trying to line it up, but Ringo getting pretty low is going to survive.
Yeah, suppressing fire coming through that brush. It does slow anyone who gets caught in that line AoE. So it's a good zoning tool, like we saw right there. And Unknown and Gangstar still in the audience here. Take a look at these games. But as I was saying with Saw, defensive itemization actually is more of an option. You have low mobility, but that roadie run, basically he'll sprint and get into melee mode, but it does percent health missing damage. So it's a fantastic execute if you want to take the risk of going into that melee range.
Yeah, for sure. You did see Godfather trying to bait out Scarf, actually taking some Spitfires on purpose. And you saw both Wands and Queen trying to line up that gank once again, but not going to come through here. Godfather was touted as one of the best laners from the Invitational, especially just in his understanding of how to lane, with which heroes you can lane even. Maybe not #1 in terms of laning mechanics, but the guy is extremely smart and a fantastic player for sure.
Yeah, and at least with the Saw this time, when we think about the team composition, they have the Vanguard on Arden to at least help Saw out with his mobility issues should they really arise, and they get that shield in too. We do see Arden building the double oak hearts here because his Vanguard scales with his HP. So Arden, a hero in particular that you really want to stack a lot of just raw HP on because it helps your teammates so much.
Yeah, just so far liking the composition from Hunters for sure. You have a lot of sustainability for that Saw, and even if he does go down, because you're going to want to focus him down very fast, the Celeste from behind is going to do so much poking damage. It's a nice idea. And Godfather, as I said before, great understanding of the lane. Maybe he's trying to revolutionize things here with the Saw. We've seen teams pick soft pick three Saws, rather, as a joke. You know, that's where Saw was at so far in Vainglory professionally, but seems like we're gonna see what he can line up here.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how this actually pans out. Now, of course, coming into this Hunter, a favorite against this new team, but Wild is starting to fall behind early, and there is that zone. You have to back off immediately once that goes through. A lot of damage can be found through that suppressing fire. And Godfather continues to just play this lane quite aggressively. He's got his team to back him up. Looks like West getting into the brush. Vanguard onto Godfather already. But the core collapse will take out Senti. And they will answer a 1-for-1 as Godfather falls next to the tri-brush. So even trades, but the difference is that every time this even trade goes through, Hunters get something else. They get into the enemy jungle. They start denying some form of minion camp. And West doesn't really, or Wild doesn't really seem to have too many options.
The play out of the two jungle heroes, or at least the two heroes that are going to be in the jungle most likely, has been very passive so far. They're essentially letting Hunters just do whatever they want. There's no kind of counter ganking, no waiting for a gank. Look at that, huge damage coming down with Celeste kind of getting caught.
Well, they're trying to fight around the tension bow power spike. You notice Senti just bought that item. Really nice early game item. West very, very low, but will get out. No vision in that tri-brush. They try to get the poke damage down, but Wands escapes in the end, and that's going to mean more jungle eaten up by the Hunters past that 50-yard line.
And even more than that, they're going to be able to get the Skull Miner. That is huge. They didn't need to kill the hero, so it would have been a nice bonus, but just the amount they won that team fight allows them to pick this up. Going to pick up 265 gold for each player, and going to get quite far ahead. Already a 6.8k to 4.4k gold lead.
Yeah, pretty darn significant. And Wild, they have the Scarf. They have the Ringo with the tension bow. They need to front load some poke. That should be their objective, is just to poke people off with the Achilles shot. Of course, the tension bow will do more damage on your first shot every 6 seconds. So just get that one auto in, get some Spitfire poke down, and just hope you can take an objective off of that while attempting to kite this one out.
Ooh, Godfather now picking up a weapon infusion. Even he's saying, you guys have a power spike, but I'm going to use this myself to kind of deal with that as well. Now Wild pushing onto this turret, but going to be ganked from behind.
Yeah, here comes Queen in from the rear. There's the opening up with the Celeste ult, but the kiting now coming through, and they get some work done. Not at least a small amount of damage onto the turret as they do back off.
Screw coming down there onto Wands, just taking a bit more damage. They're trying to force Celeste out of the fight and not allow her to poke with that Saw, but it's not quite going to work. She's still in here doing a ton of damage and even looking to poke some more.
Yeah, and Heliogenesis now has that overdrive. Really, the big thing about Heliogenesis with that 5th point is the +2 range, 7 to 9 that you get. So it just makes the harassment, the poke, that much more devastating and gives you further control. It also, because it gives you vision and brushes, allows you to check brushes very safely, even if you don't necessarily have that scout trap in there.
I just love Celeste as a hero just because of that. I feel like her kit is extremely strong, and she's a very mechanically dependent hero, but once you get it down, she is just so powerful. Another gank trying to come in here, but Scarf is going to see it. Nightray gonna back off here.
Yeah, it does take a little bit of heliogenesis damage. We didn't really talk about Godfather's build, but going for some lifesteal first with that Serpent Mask. There's another heliogenesis coming in. Nova goes down, doubling up, and just the poke damage taken by Wild. They don't really have much of a chance to contest these objectives as Hunters are constantly putting down those skill shots over the wall to force their way into the enemy jungle.
I love the positioning of them as well, just sitting in this brush for so long. Bit of poke damage coming down onto Godfather, but
holy
the Solar
moly.
Storm!
That is a lot of damage already. And that may be the first turret of the game going down in favor of Hunter. Senti on the outside trying to do what he can, clear out that minion wave.
Senti trying to use that tension bow very nicely here, but so far hasn't had much luck. Just the composition out of Hunters, I feel, really forces him out of the fight. So far, he's only got a reflex block, but that's about it for defense. I think he's going to need to pick up some shield here in order to just survive for a bit longer in those team fights.
Yeah, looks like that might well come through. Lots of scout traps all around the gold miner right now. It is approaching full for that massive payout for Hunters. They're a little bit low. Wild may be able to make a play here, but they have fallen a bit behind on levels, not to mention, of course, that large 3,000 gold advantage for Hunters, and Hunters just playing defensively right now. Minion Candy down onto the miner. That means he will be doing a lot more damage should Wild attempt to take that objective or even fight around it. There's the Hellfire Brew coming through, chunking out Queen. They're going to push right back in, and Senti already taking a huge amount of damage from the gold miner.
Yeah, if you aggro that gold miner, it's just going to be not a very good situation for you. You already see Senti below half health, West getting very, very low as well, and I think they're just going to have to give it up. There's not much they can do. The defense here at the gold mine has been fantastic out of Hunters.
Dancing around that objective. And it's like just some more fancy animation canceling from Godfather. Really feeling very comfortable on this unusual pick of Saw.
Funny we do see the Broken Myth first out of Wands. Usually you see that Eve of Harvest, get that lifesteal going on first. But deciding just to go for the Void Battery for that sustain and then go straight to the Broken Myth. Definitely going to help out. I guess she feels safe enough. She doesn't need that lifesteal, that Crystal Lifesteal. And instead is just going to go for the heavy power over time.
Yeah, interesting pickup. Nightray also going a very different build than we saw from the Scarf in the last game. Frostburn, and here's a potential engagement. Whoa, lots of open up damage there. Heliogenesis goes down, Gauntlet falls, and everyone from Wild trying to escape, but there's the stuns coming in from the Gauntlet. No one dead quite yet. Gauntlet now dropped by West, and here comes Senti trying to get through, but he can't quite finish up the kill onto Godfather. Vanguard out of the way of the scout trap damage for Queen. 1 for 2 in favor of Hunters.
Yeah, that was a very nice try there by Senti. Mostly his Ringo play has been quite nice. Even just the kiting he was doing. He wasn't leaving the fight and just taking a bunch of damage. He knows the power of Ringo with that tension bow. But unfortunately, not much support from his teammates. Scarf getting very low, no Dragon's Breath coming out, not many Spitfires, had to run away very early on in the fight. I feel like Wild isn't totally out of this game. They still have a chance. If they can take like one good team fight, go for the gold miner, they definitely could still stay in this. Looks like they're going to go for the gold miner now, though.
Yeah, they're going to try and take it, and that'll be a gold payout, 126. Not the most, but at least it's something to help Wild get back in this game. Here's the first Heliogenesis. Will be dodged with a Vanguard, and now Senti in the front of the fight, taking a huge amount of damage. He will fall, but so will Godfather on the other side. Nightray coming on through, manages to grab a kill onto Wands. Can they get the slow off? And no, they're going to run through several scout traps, and Queen will escape.
That was actually a fantastic time to fight for Wild. They fought while the Solar Storm was down, the ultimate ability of Celeste, and the Gauntlet from Arden. But he did have the Dragon's Breath there on Scarf, as well as the Hellfire Brew out of Ringo. So, just getting a good position after that gold miner grab and taking the fight big time, especially the Dragon's Breath. The way he lined that up, that was fantastic.
So a bit of a comeback right now. Still, they've got quite a deficit, Wild, but showing at least they can hang in there. But they've got a long time till that Ringo ult is back up and available. Meanwhile, Hunter's operating at full power with all their abilities off cooldown. Wild starting to just move through their jungle a little bit, see if they can reclaim a lot of what Hunters took from them earlier on in this game.
Loving the Aegis pickup as well from Night Ray. He's taking mostly damage from Celeste, and if he can take that down, that will be huge.
A gauntlet dropped just to try and escape, but 2 gauntlets down and everyone locked in to the gauntlet from Hunter. Night Ray trying to kite with that Frostburn right now. Here comes the dive. Heliogenesis after Heliogenesis falling on top of Night Ray. They want to pick up this kill. They're diving deep for it. Night Ray so low. Can they actually finish the kill? Yes, they can. Wands chases it down eventually.
That Bergametti, if you are a Celeste and you're allowed to just Heliogenesis after Heliogenesis like that, you are going to get a bunch of kills.
So here's the start of this fight with the first gauntlet dropped by West.
Yeah, this is kind of just bad positioning out of Wild. 2 of them getting caught out. Scarf not even in the fight. This is the best part of Arden, I would say, is if you can catch people out and catch even just 2 players like that and break up a team fight, it's going to be huge.
Well, there we go. Kraken 3/4 of the way done during that spawn before it can even start attacking. So a quick 15-minute spawn Kraken for Hunters. And that is going to be pretty damn nice for them as they look to close out this game.
Yeah.
Minion mine already taken by Wild, so they do have a bit of an advantage in terms of the pushing onto the enemy turret, at least for the moment, but Hunters looking to continue to play that very aggressive style. And I really like the way Hunters have been playing in this game. They're not afraid of scrapping early, and they just want to continue to fight because they know they can punish you in your jungle.
Yeah. Part of that as well is they don't want Ringo to get too fed. They don't want him to get up to 3-4 items. If it goes that late with that Scarf behind him, that is going to be so hard to deal with. So they just want to use their early advantage, use that Celeste.
Holy cow. Need to have time to talk right there. Celeste ult comes through. Night Ray locked up with the core collapse, and that'll be an ace. And more than likely the game, one would think, at this stage, although Kraken does fall to the post-death turret explosion. However, they've got enough damage. Yeah. Turrets falling left and right, and that will be a fast win for Hunters as they take out Wild in their first match, showing why they are a top 4 team in the last event. Easy win for Hunters.
You can definitely see the difference in skill, even just between Hunters and the teams that won in the first 2 games tonight as well. Just unbelievable control over the game. Even just that Saw pick worked out so well for them. The Arden play out of Queen. We saw so much Fortress and 1 Catherine play in the Invitational, but this is my first time watching her Arden. It's out of control, man. She is so good.
Yeah, and I just love the way, again, that Hunters, they will trade evenly with you in terms of kills, but they always press the HP advantage that they have afterwards into the enemy jungle, starting to invade, starting to take away those jungle camps, and they're very unrelenting in their pressure throughout the entire game.
Now, Hunters coming across, now going to shake their opponent's hands. Queen leading the way, the manager and the leader here for this team.
Yeah, playing very well in that game. So Senti coming in, former Warcraft 3 player, doesn't do so hot in his first match. Of course, he didn't play in the qualifiers, but here to try and do a little bit better as we move through the group stage.
At the same time, I don't feel like that loss was really his fault. He played a very nice Ringo. I think just his mechanical skill and his play so far was all right. Maybe his positioning could use a bit of work if I could just look at one thing for him. But
let's take a look at our man of the match. It will be Wands on that Celeste, I think. Well deserved, and we've seen more and more teams try to run this jungle Celeste. We saw it banned out in our last match because that is what got some of these teams through the qualifiers. Pops up here, and it earns that man of the match.
Yeah, I think he definitely deserves it. If not him, it would have been Queen, I think. Just very straight up Saw play from Godfather. It wasn't bad, but to see Arden and Celeste positioning was fantastic.
And so let's have a nice little chat. with our man of the match. Interview brought to you courtesy of Jay Song. Go ahead.
Thanks, Monty. We also have here June Park. That'll be translating from Chinese to Korean, and I'll be translating that. So just how do you feel about the win?
Ah, yes, linguistic telephone, my favorite.
I'll have to wait for a little bit until he translates back. He was very nervous before the match, so but then he pulled it out in the end. So, you guys placed 4th in the Invitational previously. Did you guys practice a lot between this Premier League and the Invitational? I only slept for a few hours every night, would practice every day, scrim every day, so. You showed a very great showing today, a great performance, and you picked Celeste. And then Ardon saw it. Was this a pick that you guys been preparing? Is that something that comp that you guys been thinking about? So for Arden, we practice a lot, and then it's a good pick for Queen, and then it's a pick that we practice a lot, and then Godfather playing Saul was sort of a pocket pick. So, but then we have been preparing for this sort of a comp. The Celeste, the B skill, A skill, and even the ult damage was a lot. It's really important as playing Celeste to look at the angle of using the ult. So I think that's how you play Celeste well. And anything you want to say for the next upcoming matches? We'll try to do better than last time and try to show a great showing. And then wanted to thank all of the Chinese fans. And give a big round of applause. And then I'll give it back to you, Monty.
Thank you very much for the translation, Jay Song. And that will wrap up our matches tonight as we take a look at our results. Pretty quick games. PQQ over Victorious, Beyond convincingly winning over VAP, and Hunters in an unorthodox choice, using that saw to grab a win over Wild.
Talking about that pocket pick, definitely just straight up a pocket pick. I don't think anyone would have really expected that. Probably down on one of the lowest rungs in terms of hero tiers here so far in Vainglory, but using it quite well. I would also like to say, though, that Wild, they're playing one of the strongest teams we have here, and I think they definitely have a lot of potential, especially in that group where pretty much only Hunters is the only team from the Invitational there. So they have an opportunity at least to get second, maybe even first if they do well in the future.
That's right, and our matches for Sunday will be PQQ versus Invincible Armada. Actually a very exciting match considering PQQ's dominance today. And then, that to me is just going to be very interesting. That's a very difficult group, especially with Unknown in there as well. So a premier match, PQQ coming in saying we are as good as Invincible Armada. Well, put your money where your mouth is on Sunday. Beyond that, we will see Beyond versus Gangstars, another very interesting matchup considering the victory today for Beyond.
Keep in mind, Gangstars was watching Beyond's play today. Beyond's taking a pretty one-sided game for them, but I'm sure they're going to take note of their strategies and what they like to play.
And finally, Hack versus Hunters. Hunters having that opportunity to just increase their number of wins, drag their win streak forward from 1 to 2. Not a very long win streak, but
Do you think it's going to be very one-sided there as well?
I think we might see a little bit more of a one-sided match.
Yeah.
I don't even know really how seriously Hunters were playing today, given some of those selections. It's always, if you have a lot of
Soft play.
confidence in your victory, maybe you're going to be hiding something moving forward into perhaps some more tough matches later in the group stage.
That's a really good point. We've already seen Hack go down to Raid. Raid looking like maybe the number 2, number 3 team here. So, maybe in the future we'll get to see that game, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Always those pocket picks give you something to think about. Maybe you ban it out, maybe you don't. We will be back.